Hey, everyone! I'm Becca, he's Matt, and this is Becca's Book Club Adventure.
Welcome back, everybody. I have been on a reading marathon the past couple of days. Becca, on the other hand, got to go dance the night away and have a really good weekend while I sat in a chair with a book. How was this wedding? Where was it?
Oh, it was a really good wedding. We went to Bloomington, Indiana, where the bride and groom are from, which was a solid 5-hour drive. But we got to listen to books on the way, so that was wonderful.
All right.
And the bride's theme for the wedding was pink. So everyone was in almost pretty much the same shade of pink, which was really cool. So there was like hot pink and then like your classic light pink, which was super fun.
Was it like just the color, or were people getting into like Pink Pony Club or Barbie or things like that?
So the younger girls were definitely in some Barbie outfits, which was cute. And then the bachelorette party was Pink Pony Club.
Nice.
We went bourbon tour tasting on the Derby day. So of course, Pink Pony. So we had a ton of fun with that.
That's cool. You don't have to name names on here, but how do you know the bride again? I think you told
Pharmacy
me.
School.
Pharmacy school. That's right. Okay. Did Kevin enjoy?
He did have a good time. One of the friends of the bride captured us dancing together, and I was very thankful for that because I took no photos.
Yeah, I saw those pictures you put up on Instagram. Super cute. You guys looked great.
Yeah, we always have fun dancing.
I'm glad you guys had fun. My wife spent the weekend in your house watching your dogs, and I sat in a chair in my house and read like a book and a half. So I'm glad one of us got to go out and experience the outside. It's a good time.
Have a real life adventure.
Yeah, have a real life adventure. If we've been getting a couple of new subscribers. I don't want to like say we have lots of subscribers, but it's gone from like 2 to 12 in the last like 2 or 3 weeks. So if you guys are new around here, we've been making our way through the Crescent City series by Sarah J. Maas. And kind of on the side, I've been reading the Empyrean cycle by Rebecca Yarros, trying to catch up so that Becca and I can read Onyx Storm together. And I just finished Iron Flame this past weekend. I started it like Friday afternoon when I got off work, and I finished it by 4 p.m. on Saturday so that I could get my ass to the gym before it closed. Woo!
And what do you think?
It was good. Like, usually sequels, they might be good, but they're like not usually as good as the first book. I thought this one was just as good as Fourth Wing. Definitely a 5 out of 5. Consumed my life. It was not hard to read through it.
Good read.
Really good read, and they've set everything up perfectly for book 3. So, I think since you haven't read it in a while, we'll do a little bit of a recap. But I want to do a couple of things before we get to the recap. First, I want to let our listeners know how they can join in on the conversation. We definitely want to know what you guys are thinking of the Empyrean cycle, Iron Flame, etc. So go ahead and leave us a comment or give us a review. You can email us at bookclubbybecca@gmail.com, or you can even DM us on Instagram. We are at Becca's Book Club Adventure. And if you do, we might just feature you in the next episode or a future episode. Speaking of which, we did get some comments on our Fourth Wing episode. If you haven't seen, if you're watching or listening and you haven't watched or listened to our Fourth Wing episode and you'd like to do that, I believe it is episode 20. And if you're watching on YouTube, I'll add like a card you can click here. I'd like to quickly go through a couple of those comments because I thought some of them were interesting.
I'm so nervous.
So we got a listener that was also talking about how she was listening to the Audible book. And we were talking in that episode. I was calling Violet's sister Myra, and you mentioned that your audiobook was saying Mira.
Uh-huh.
And she was weighing in on this. She said that it was also her version, because it was a book that she got from the library. And I don't really know how audiobooks go, but I know that there's the one that the author goes, this is the audiobook, go. And then I also know that there are other versions of audiobooks that get made sometime. But she was saying that it was also saying it like Mira, and I get the sense that she doesn't necessarily agree with that. So I wanted to get your take. Which one do you like, Mira or Myra? What makes more sense?
I think I like either one, really.
Mm.
Because it's an I, and when I hear Mira, I hear an E. When I hear Myra, I hear a Y.
Yeah, I was doing Myra because of the Y thing, because especially Sarah J. Maas, she likes to replace Y's with I's, and she likes to replace I's with Y's to like differentiate spellings. So I guess that was where my brain was when I was reading Fourth Wing.
Myra also makes me just think of Schitt's Creek, and so that's a whole different name. But it's
That's true.
close enough that my brain goes there.
The same commenter also goes on a couple of different comments when we were talking about sort of like what Violet looks like, and we were talking about like she's really frail, she's really small, but like all the guys still want her. And then you made the comment that like she put on like muscle, and she put on a bunch of strength. This commenter was saying that you can build muscle while still having really frail joints.
That's true.
So you can still be described as frail because of that, but your body can physically look better and whatever. And I was actually thinking about that, and I want to get your take on a couple of things. First, I have a cousin, and I was not allowed to play with her when we were growing up, because if you like touched her wrong or she fell or something, her bones would break. Different than like joints, but you know. And I was thinking about her, and then I was also thinking about the concept of lifting weights, right? And how load bearing your joints are when you stabilize your body. And I think to myself, and I wanted to get your opinion, what is the possibility of like putting on meaningful amounts of muscle if you have frail joints or bones that might not be able to support the load?
I think that's all individual at that point, right? Like Kevin and I both deadlift. And so when Kevin and I first started dating, he couldn't touch his toes, right? And I can like put the palms of my hands underneath my toes. That's how the difference is in the flexibility of our hamstrings. And so he can lift more now because he's got a lot of stability with it, and he can get much closer to touching his toes. But I really struggle with building the strength in it because like I've got way too much flexibility to lift it. And so it's been interesting also just like trying to figure out different strength training exercises than some of your traditional ones because of that flexibility that's there. So I get it. It's a thing. Yeah.
And a commenter gave us a book recommendation.
Ooh.
It is called The Vampire Academy by Rochelle Mead. And I don't want to spend too much time on like what it's about, but I get the it's about a 6-book series. They're all out, and the first book is like a 4 out of 5 on Storygraph.
Oh.
And they all seem to be roughly 320 pages. So I think it might be a little bit more romance rather than like fantasy, but I thought I would pass that on to you so you could noodle that over. And also maybe if any of our anybody that might be listening has read it or whatever, throw your thoughts in the comments. Should we read it? I mean, I'm game from just the little that I've read, at least to give the first book a try, but
Well, we should also pay some homage to our sponsor for today's episode.
we
Our,
should indeed.
our sponsor today is Reality Filters.
Are you feeling overwhelmed by the world? Are you tired of world events ruining your fun? Try Reality Filters, the new mental lens that lets you filter out anything that's inconvenient. You can choose from options like everything is fine, I'm not the problem, this is totally not normal, or you could even level up with the all-new Delusional Deluxe Extender Pack.
Becca's book club adventure is not responsible for your reality, but we can help you filter it or even escape from it completely for a short time. For the low cost of 20 easy payments of $3.99 plus shipping and handling.
Reality Filters, because why just cope when you can completely disconnect?
All right, let's get into the recap.
Recap. All right. So first of all, this book is like 625, 630 pages. We're going to gloss over some stuff. So don't hate us in the comments. All right. Iron Flame picks up right after Fourth Wing with Violet healing and Aretia under Brennan's care. And if you forgot who Brennan is, it's her brother. As she recovers, we learn more about the rebellion, its key players, its goals, its gaps, etc. And Violet remains cold towards Xaden and his betrayal of trust from the end of book 1.
But with graduation looming and the group needs to return to Basgiath after waiting for a new harness to be made for Andrana because she's doubled in her size.
Indeed. Once they're back, they have to navigate the fallout from Colonel Atos's near-lethal war game decisions. Though Atos is ultimately removed from Basgiath, for those decisions, he vows revenge, and his successor, the ruthless Major Varish, sorry, I stumbled over that because it auto-corrected Varish to Varnish. The the ruthless Major Varish isn't any better, maybe even worse.
Just as Andarna enters dreamless sleep, Xaden graduates and departs for active duty, elevating Dane and Rhiannon into leadership roles as a new class of cadets arrive, including Auric, the king's son, and Sloane, Leon's sister, who Violet promised to protect.
And so the second year kicks off, and it's a lot like the first year, but kind of like on steroids. There are harsher lessons, propaganda-laced classes, brutal rider survival class, not to mention assassination attempts from Colonel Atos, as well as constant punishment from Varish.
And it's not just Violet. Xaden is dealing with the same perils alongside his active duty responsibilities.
As sleeping patterns begin to falter and mental shields begin to fray, Violet juggles political tensions, keeps her friends at an arm's length so she won't lie to them or implicate them in the rebellion, and also works with Jesinia to begin uncovering missing archive intel about the wards.
Violet endures fake interrogations that are anything but fake. Jack Barlow re-enters classes after Nolan mends him, constant worry over Xaden, Taryn and Sigael's needs, and Varish's need to keep them apart, as well as anxiety over being caught researching illegal texts with Jesinia.
During a lull, the squad finds a way to escape their capture in the fake interrogation. But afterwards, the squad are all way too interested in finding out what Violet knows that Varish so badly wanted to find out, because it's clearly not just a fake secret code phrase that they were given.
And then the good news arrives. Jesinia has found the place where the ultimate intel is stored. Bad news, it's a royal vault, with wards that only allow someone of a royal bloodline to pass.
Thankfully, we have just such an individual, and Eric is there to help them through an extremely anxious midnight flight through the archives. And with his help, they find and steal 2 journals from the original 6 writers, and then barely escape. Xaden is able to take one of the journals to Brennan, but Violet gets caught with the other journal.
For this, Varish tortures Violet for 5 long days, using Nolan to keep her alive. When Dane comes to read her memories after she hasn't broken, Violet forces Dane to see what she wants him to see. the truth.
Dane then proceeds to begin rescuing her, just as Xaden storms in with Garrick for a bloody showdown, along with confessions of his undying love for Violet. They all flee Basgiath to the rebellion, along with half of the cadets and professors.
Later, Violet makes a desperate bid to protect Aretia by negotiating for Viscount Terracus Luminary by defeating a Venin and agreeing to accept the Griffin Flyers in Aretia since their academy was overrun.
As winter looms and the Venin and Wyverns advance on Navarre, Violet begins to raise the wards in Aretia, but also discovers that the real attack will be at Basgiath itself, where all Navarre's power is centralized.
At Basgiath, Jack Barlow, who is Venin by the way, breaks the ward stone in a massive betrayal, triggering a full-scale invasion. The following climactic battle is savage.
Between Violet's lightning, Xaden's shadows, in-air acrobatics, jumping from dragon to dragon, and saving Sawyer's life, Violet finds herself on the ground facing two Venin. She takes out one with lightning just as Andarna comes frickin' out of nowhere to torch and then eat the other one.
It's a good thing she's on the ground because Jacinia finds her and shows her the second journal and how to re-raise the wards.
In a heart-wrenching twist, General Sorrengail gives her life to save Violet's, as well as imbue the wardstone with enough power for the 6 dragons plus Andarna, an undocumented 7th breed, to fire the stone and re-raise the wards.
Wyverns fall from the sky dead after Xaden kills their leader and the Venin flee in panic, but it comes at a cost. In order for Xaden to best the sage, he had to become Venin, to beat the Venin.
First question. How did that recap do?
I think it's okay. You miss all of the discussion of Cat, which was maybe intentional, but she was low-key like maybe one of my favorite characters during this book, just because she created a lot of spite and angst.
Okay, so for anybody listening, throughout the book, we meet one of Xaden's ex-girlfriends, who is also his ex-fiance, who is also the heir to a Crovlin throne that he dumped before he got with Violet, and her name is Kat, and she's a little bit of a bitch, and she makes life a living hell for Violet, and they have like little cat fights, and it's almost not a thing for the plot, which I think is why I left it out in the recap. It was literally just like, I don't want to call it filler because that sounds bad, but it like rounds out the world and it rounds out the characters, but like it could totally not be there and nothing really would change about the story.
I guess that's fair. I think the moment where Kat's father makes her face off with a Venin in a arena-style event with Mira at her side, I think creates part of that storyline very nicely.
Yes. Okay, so did you give this a 5? No? Do you remember what rating you gave it?
I think I gave it a 4.
4? I definitely gave it another 5. Really good. I would like to first talk about Violet, Xaden, and then perhaps Violet and Xaden, because when we were talking Fourth Wing, you gave me a pretty hot take that Xaden's annoying, that he keeps a lot of secrets. And when I was reading this second book, I'm not disputing the annoying part, because he like forces Violet to ask questions if she wants answers and information.
Yep.
Which really sucks, because how do you know what questions to ask?
This is why he's annoying.
But I don't feel like he ever really like kept information from her like he did in the first book. He was like mature and an open book. It was just up to Violet to read him, and that was the unfair, annoying part to me.
Yeah, I still found it wildly annoying.
He was annoying.
I would have dumped him so fast.
Are they mates? I know that their dragons are mates, but like nobody else in this world seems to have the bond that they have. And I haven't heard the word mate thrown around, but do you think that's even a thing here?
I don't.
No? Okay. I do think it's crazy, and I think one of the best misdirects that I've ever read was Violet's recurring nightmares all year. It seems to me that they were actually Xaden's nightmares
Hmm.
because it was like the exact how Xaden becomes Venin and all of that and kind of how the book ends. And I'm wondering, I want to go back and reread. I can't because the library took my book, but um was she really only having these nightmares, at least on page, when they were sharing a bed, or was she having them all the time? And so then it brings in some metaphysical questions that I have about, um, can Xaden like project his dreams, and is that because of the mental bond they share because of the dragons, or is that a proximity thing, or am I just reading into it way too much?
I mean, proximity is definitely part of their mental bond, right? When they are, um,
Yeah,
while he's serving and she's back at the college, they don't have that connectivity necessarily. So
that's true.
proximity is part of the equation, but in the same room or not is another interesting question.
Xaden also goes through a little bit of a Dane phase. And I think that was one of the things that irritated me the most when he's just trying to protect the crap out of her. And like, I get it. I want Elizabeth to be safe. I don't want her to be in harm's way. Although we have like computer jobs, then we sit in a chair all day. So how are you going to be in harm's way? But man, I guess I what does love mean to you? The huge loaded question, I know.
I was gonna say that's a little loaded for Monday night. I don't think I could even begin to answer that question.
I think an example I can give is when I was like in high school and college, I always wanted my girlfriend to be like what I wanted in a girlfriend. And I think that's like why people try to change their partners. But with your sister, it's very different. It's more like I'm happy when she's happy. So I don't need her to dress a certain way, except for like how she wants to dress, because you can tell a person's like personality shifts and their mood shifts when they feel good about what they're wearing. Or and the same thing goes for like if she wants to have a drink or she wants to go out with her girlfriends, or get a tattoo or freaking whatever. And so sometimes what I'm driving at here is when I read books like this where Xaden has, for example, has so much love allegedly that he has to like control her actions. It's a very foreign concept to me.
Yeah. Their love story I don't love, but I do enjoy the plot.
Yes. Um okay, speaking of the plot, I want to General Sorrengail. Yes, her ultimate sacrifice really broke me. Um
Yes.
and I think it's a testament to Rebecca Yarros's writing that it broke me, because I was thinking about it, and the question I keep coming back to is, was that a good character arc, or was it like too too little too late kind of a thing? Because she always seems to come out of left field.
I think it was a good character arc. I don't think it was too little too late. It was maybe in the nick of time. I really wish they had had like 3 days to mother daughter bond, mother daughter son bond, but they got like 12 hours.
I wish she was in Fourth Wing a little bit more, I guess. uh
As an actual active character, because she's referenced a lot in Fourth
she's
Wing, and she's
referenced a
not.
lot, but you don't get a lot about
No.
her. So her thing, for anybody listening, is her entire life allegedly has been about protecting her children because she loves them so much. So she rose up in the ranks. And this is me filling in gaps, but she rose up through the military ranks in order to perpetuate the system that everybody had inherited, where the kingdom was lying to everybody about the wyvern and the venin and um, all of that. And she wanted to be in charge of the military so that she could ensure that everybody remained safe, and everybody includes her three children. Um, then um, it, she loved her scribe husband a lot, and he knew all of the secrets, and therefore she knew all of the secrets from the scribes. And so she put Violet into the writer's quadrant because she wanted to save Violet's life, because she made the assumption, and I think she rightfully made the assumption, that Violet would be like the heir apparent to the scribes, and they would be grooming her and have to like let her in on the secret. And Violet would have this big bleeding heart and want to fix the problem, but without any military training or anything. Essentially, the scribes would have just killed her and picked somebody else.
Yeah.
So General Sorrengail put her into the writer's quadrant so that she would know everything she needed to know, but then she would get the training to stay alive and fight it. And then at the end, she gives her life so that they could raise the wards, and that's the only way she could protect her children at the end. But a lot of what I just described is me filling in gaps of the story and creating a little bit of a backstory that you don't really get. And I guess I would have wanted to somehow get that backstory. I don't know how we would have gotten that backstory if General Sorrengail was always going to be this austere military figure.
See, I think we might get that in Onyx Storm.
Oh, like flashbacks, journals. That is right. Do you know what the things at the top of the chapters are called, where you get like a little excerpt from a letter or from a book? There's
I
a
don't.
name for those, but there was one in Iron Flame, and it was recovered correspondence from Captain Sorrengail to her husband's scribe.
Yep.
Okay, so maybe that's how they'll tell the story, with just the little headers.
Which the graphic audio books do a wonderful job with those. I really enjoyed reading them through that.
Ooh, how do tell.
Because you get like this like historical background kind of sound with them before you start into the chapter, which also, if you've listened to audiobooks, sometimes some audiobooks, especially graphic audiobooks, do a shitty job telling you when it's a new chapter. But because of the way these books were written, you get those demarcations of the new chapter.
Do you specifically to like Fourth Wing and Iron Flame, do you prefer reading the book yourself, or are the audiobooks in this case like better?
I'm always a read a book if I can person. I did the audiobooks this winter because I was wanting to quickly get through them so I could get prepared for Onyx Storm, of which I then have been waiting forever for my copy for the library. So I started that too soon.
Colonel Atos and Major Varish. I liked Colonel Atos in Fourth Wing when he was like kind of pulling strings behind the curtains. He wasn't an evil guy. He was like a duty bound guy. But then in Iron Flame, he's like sending assassins at all of the people that had fought at Ressen.
Mm-hmm.
And he like vows vengeance at Violet and Xaden to their faces, and like he almost becomes this evil mustache twirling dude. But then you get Major Varish, who replaces him, and that dude's like the biggest jerk ever. What were your takes on those two guys?
So I'm glad that you managed to read this book really quickly. It took me a long time to read this book because the first half of the book is essentially how much torture can Violet withstand and still move forward.
It was rough.
So that was really painful to read because you feel for Violet, and after so many scenarios of it, you're like, okay, I get it. She obviously has a lot of tolerance and it's not going to crack.
What'd you think of Major Varish's death?
It was very satisfactory.
That
whole scene where Violet is befriending again Dane and justifying Dane's actions to Xaden and getting that whole situation while she's like borderline unconscious the whole time was very touching.
Yes, I agree. I think at some point in her interrogation, maybe even at the very beginning of it, when the torture starts, she like promises Varish that she's going to kill him or whatever. And so we get that nice full circle line when she does. I think when we talked Fourth Wing, I was telling you that like this, why is this not a TV show? Because Iron Flame just makes it want to be a TV show even more to me because of that scene. How satisfying would that scene be? I told you, I promised you that you wouldn't leave this room alive. Like,
It's interesting you see this as a TV show because I see these as a movie. Because they're very like Harry Potter in the way that it covers roughly a year with each book.
yeah, I think the difference is, so when you read Harry Potter, right, you'll get like they start the school year in September, and you'll get like hardcore play by play for like September. And then suddenly it's Halloween, and then suddenly it's Christmas, and then suddenly it's the Easter holidays, and then suddenly it's the Quidditch final. And so I think for the movie's sake, not a lot actually happens, and you're able to have these calendar events that cycle through. But this entire book like spans the start of the new year through the middle of December. And so much happens that I have no idea how you would fit that into 2 hours.
Well, if you
But
reduce the 20 torture scenes down to 3, that should save you a lot of time.
yeah, I suppose. And if you take out the 20 sex scenes and reduce those down to 2.
But
Speaking
I
of
do see
which,
your point. This is maybe a mini-sode series of like 4 or so episodes that make up a season.
yeah, I was thinking like 6 or something like that, where they're like 75-minute episodes or something like that. And so then you get like 6 to 7 hours for the book.
I would skip the first 3, just so we're clear. I would just start when we get the Griffin flyers.
Okay. You like the Griffin Flyers?
Yeah, I think that's when the plot line really took an interesting twist to me of watching the 2 colleges learn together and how to work together, the rivalries that's there, but then the necessity of life survival forcing them to actually try to work together. I thought the
Mm-hmm.
second half of the book was much better.
I did really like that. Rebecca Yarros did a really, really good job with this book because, first of all, when they kill, when they unalive Major Varish, and then they take half of the cadets and half of the professors and bug out, that could have been the book. That could have been the end of the book, right? And then she wrote a completely new book of them starting. And when they brought the second half of that new book, when they brought the Griffin Flyers in, it was almost like first year and fourth wing, because there's all these dynamics and you're focusing on the character development and the bonds and overcoming those kind of hurdles. Rebecca Yarros did a really good job of moving everything along.
Mhm.
Really, I agree with you. I like the concept that, so this is interesting because like the Griffin Flyers seem to all have some type of mind ability, or at least that's their specialization. Whereas a lot of the dragon riders are much more elemental
Mhm.
signets for the most part. Um, and I wonder why that is. And I hope we get more of that, because the whole thing is that there were these 3 brothers, and I'm assuming like one was Venin, one was Griffin Flyer, and one was Dragon Rider type of, that's the split kind of a thing.
Yeah, I think Onyx Storm is gonna give us a lot of origin story information.
So I would like to get your thoughts on what you think is going to happen in Onyx Storm. Because we leave off the book, we learn that Xaden has a second signet, and he is an intrinsic, which means he can read people's minds, or he can read their intentions. But he's also turned Venin so that he could save her life because he loved her that much. But they're also back at Basgiath. So what happens from this point, do you think?
Well, I think Violet's gonna be on a literary journey to figure out how to reverse the Venom scenario for Xaden. I think that will be the love arc.
Do you think she is successful in Onyx Storm?
I was going to say, do we know, is this the final book of this series, or are there multiple more books coming?
It looks like there are 5 books that have been commissioned. I don't know if that is all of them, or if she'll get like a 6th book deal, or if it ends at 5.
So I'm going to go with she's not successful in this book, but it will be the beginning point of the plotline.
Okay. So we know that the wards in Aretia are going to fail if they haven't already. We know that it takes all 7 dragon breeds to fire a ward stone and get it to do its thing. We know that Andarna is the only of the 7th dragon breed, and she was used on the ward stone at Basgiath, which ostensibly means that the wards in Aretia are going to fail and they can't fix it. So, where does this rebellion go? Because it seems to me that the king, maybe even General Melgren, like they're not going to play nice.
No, definitely not General Melgren. So I've heard from others about islands, and so my guess is I wonder if we're going to go find and learn about where other dragon nests are to find more Andarnas.
Okay. Ooh, more Andarnas. Speaking of Andarna, is she like a chameleon? What does she
Sounds
look like? I really want to know. She sounds super cool.
Right?
And why did I picture Toothless from How to Train Your Dragon the entire time I was picturing Andarna?
See, that's kind of what I got for Terran, even though I know that is not at all what he looked like. Complete opposite of that.
I think for Terran, I had in my head like a Game of Thrones dragon. Like
That would
super
be
dragony. And because Andarna was this like little cute golden thing, she was like a little bit of a cartoon in my mind. And then when she turned all black and whatever, she became Toothless.
Which is an excellent movie.
Violet is going to develop a 2nd signet. That's my guess. And Darna finishes growing up or whatever and manifests some type of power. And I'm wondering what Violet's 2nd signet is going to be.
I hope it's time oriented.
Do you want it to be the same, as in stop time?
I don't know. Maybe she's able to travel time. Maybe we'll go back in time.
I have a weird feeling that she's also going to be some version of an intrinsic, but it's going to be different from Xaden. It's going to complement Xaden. Really, really good book. Really strong politics, strong metaphysics, strong origin story. But I think my favorite part of this entire book series, there is no chosen one prophecy. Violet is not everybody's savior. She doesn't have to level up or everyone dies. She doesn't have to save the world. It feels a little bit more badass that way.
Yeah. She feels called to do it from a very internal place.
Mm-hmm. Anyhow, I put together some would you rathers. You interested? Okay. I'll take the first one and then you go. Excuse me. Would you rather have Major Varish as your enemy or Colonel Atos as your enemy?
Okay, so Major Varish would directly torture me, and Colonel Atos would send me off to be tortured by others. So I'm going to go with Colonel Atos because maybe at least there would be varied torture in there and I would do better with that. I think I would break if I had the same continuous type of torture applied.
I feel like Colonel Atos plays chess where Major Varish plays checkers.
Yeah.
And with everything else that like goes on in the world, I don't want to have to be playing 3D chess with Colonel Atos. I don't want to have to be worrying about when an assassin is going to pop out of nowhere, or like I feel like Varys just sort of like comes at you directly, and that would be a lot easier to predict and therefore steal your mind to deal with. As much as I don't want to be tortured, because what a jerk.
Yeah.
Those were rough scenes, man.
Yeah. That's why I really struggled with this book. Would you rather be bonded to Terran or Sigale?
I struggled with this question. I should have asked you this one first. Sigale doesn't like I've always wondered what the bond between Sagail and Xaden is like. She doesn't communicate through the like 4 or 5 way bond that they have very much. And when she does, it's very kind of curt.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't seem like a very nice individual. Whereas Taryn, I think some of the shit that Taryn says is the funniest stuff in the book.
Yes.
I mean, if I had my choice, it would be Andarna, especially as a juvenile. She is the perfect. Rebecca Yarros wrote the perfect teenage dragon. That is absolutely hilarious. But I think I would go with Taryn because he doesn't seem to care what I am physically. He only cares what I am mentally, and he'll take care of the rest for me. And I love that.
Yeah. I would also
Well,
lean towards Taryn because I feel like while he's snarky about it, he gives a lot of wisdom. Where I feel like Sagail would be like, "You're a fucking idiot. Good
yeah.
luck."
Okay. So would you rather have Violet's lightning or Xaden's shadows?
Shadows.
Any particular reason why?
I think the ability to hide would be much more useful in everyday life, and potentially also in battle when you talk about other types of weapons you can use, and then
Mm.
also shielding your own friends, and they can then use their weapons. Um, Even if you took Violet's inability to wield her lightning well at the beginning out of the equation, and you just were like Hunt's level of wielding, I would still pick the shadows, I think.
I think I would agree with you. I think some of my favorite scenes where Xaden just has like a circle of shadow daggers circling somebody.
Yes.
Like, I know he's good, but it's like, how do you get out of that? Like, so I would agree with you. I think the shadow abilities is where I would go.
Would you rather be in a mental sparring match with Dane or a real sparring match with Imogen?
I want to take down Dane. I would 1000% want to like construct fake memories and force feed him information or make him see things he doesn't want to see and just I would just want to mess with that dude's mind. I do not like Dane at all. I don't even care about I don't care about his redemption arc right now. He's got to do something awesome in Onyx Storm for me to come around to him.
I would take the real sparring match with Imogen, mostly because I want to learn from her and level up myself.
She does seem really cool.
She seems like a great human.
I feel bad for Rhiannon and Sawyer and Riddick for most of Iron Flame, but I really liked how close Violet and Imogen got. Would you rather be the one to tell Violet that Xaden is an Intensic, or would you rather Xaden tell you, like you were Violet, and shatter your trust? And yes, this is a weird question to think about.
My heart's broken. Um, we get it from Violet's perspective, so I think I would rather have Xaden tell me as Violet and shatter my trust. That was one of the things I really liked about her writing was that moment where Violet is having basically a match in her own brain of trying to figure out, is this okay? Is this not okay? Oh my God, why didn't he? Oh wait, I totally understand why he didn't. And oh my God, like the cycle that she went on was beautiful.
It was really, really well written. Yeah. I think I agree with you that I would like to be told, especially with somebody like Xaden, and his skills and whatever. I feel like he would just launch himself at me to kill me to automatically try to preserve the knowledge and self-preservation. And that would be hardcore scary. I'm not dealing with Xaden.
All right, final one. Would you rather lose your signet but keep your bonded dragon, or keep your signet but never bond with a dragon again?
All right. So this question obviously defies all metaphysics of the books, but I think I would rather lose. I would rather lose my signet and keep my dragon.
Are we keeping our minor magic?
If you keep your signet, you keep your minor magic. Not that the two are linked, but they both come from your dragon. So if you keep your signet, therefore you would keep your minor magic abilities too.
But if you lose your signet, you would lose your minor magic?
Yes.
Would I still be able to weave the symbols?
I mean,
I think I would still pick my dragon, so I don't know why I keep asking these nuanced pieces.
I like the nuanced pieces. especially because it has nothing to do with how that world actually works. I would agree with you. I would keep my dragon. I feel like that would be immeasurably helpful with how ferocious they are. The amount of knowledge they have, the mind-to-mind connection. They could come and save your bacon. They could fry you up some bacon.
Right. But I don't know. I might pick a griffin if I could pick a griffin.
Dude, the griffins sound cool.
They sound awesome.
What is the thing in Harry Potter? Oh, crap.
I mean, there is a griffin.
Yeah, there are griffins, but so The Prisoner of Azkaban, book 3, they save Buckbeak. What is Buckbeak? Because it's slightly different. Anyways, I think the griffins in the Empyrean cycle are so much cooler than Buckbeak and his race in Harry Potter.
A hippogriff.
Hippogriffs, that's right.
Had to look it up.
One thing before we close out this evening that I kind of thought about with my whirlwind reading weekend, that I wish most authors would take a note from J.K. Rowling. I feel that I'm starting to get a little annoyed by the villain exposition dumps. So there has to be exposition. There has to be just info dumps on the reader. That's why they're there. But I feel like J.K. Rowling found the perfect way to do it. And it's the pensive. So it's just another action scene. It's just another Harry is in the trials. He's in the memories, right? And it's not somebody just talking at you. And I wish somehow that other authors would find some type of interactive way to do info dumps rather than somebody on their deathbed or a prisoner or the supremely confident villain just before they enact their plan, talks at you for 5 pages. I don't know where I'm going with that, but it seems to me that it's like one of the only things that J.K. Rowling has done right with her life.
I was going to say, I don't think we should be idolizing any of her work, but also, is that where we put the bookmark in then?
Yeah, so let's put a bookmark in it for now.
It's been wonderful reviewing this book with you.
When do you think we're going to get to Onyx Storm? Like, I know you're getting it through Libby, right?
I am. And my Libby just said, "Are you ready to borrow?" And that was yesterday. And I said, "Oh my gosh, no." So I suspended it again.
How long are suspensions for?
Usually at this point, they're 25 days for me. I've been kicking like 4 of them back by 25 days.
Okay.
So.
Here's what we're going to do. We're going to try to finish Crescent City inside of those 25 days.
Yes.
And I think we can.
Yes.
And then we'll do Onyx Storm immediately.
Love it.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. We will be back with The House of Flame and Shadow, Crescent City #3 by Sarah J. Maas. So,
Part 1.
Part 1. So we'll see you soon. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.